o'clock, so I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. I am here over the Zoom in sunny Ridgefield, Washington, and I see Commissioner Shannon and I hear Commissioner Wilkins, so I assume that you guys have a quorum. Do you guys want to go ahead and do the flag salute from there?
We can do that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okie dokie.
Great. Let's go into 2.0, which is additions and revisions to the agenda. Does anybody have anything?
I do not.
Nothing from you, Sherry?
No.
Okay. We'll go into correspondence and public comment then. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time, and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. For those who are signing on in the Zoom, if you dialed your phone in, it's *6 to unmute yourself, or the lower left-hand corner. And then I'll just sort of count on folks in the courtroom if there's anyone in the courtroom that wishes to speak. Anybody? Okay, if not, let's move on to correspondence. I just wanted to note that there is the final grant report. It's a capital investment report from the South Gillin County Health District. So we should be seeing more of those as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year. For anyone who is interested in seeing how your money, public money, was spent, these grant reports are always posted online with the court's packet. So if anybody wants to see that one, it will be posted with this this meeting packet. Let's move on to the consent agenda.
Do you have anything on the consent agenda?
Yeah, I wanted to pull the last item off on the job description for the office manager for the road and weed department and make another change to it and discuss it someplace on the agenda.
Okay, let's go ahead and just move it to, since we've discussed this previously as part of the recruitment, let's go ahead and move it to 5.9 under unfinished business.
I move we approve the consent agenda as revised.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as revised, which consists of consider approval of March 16th, 2022 regular meeting minutes, consider approval of March 16th, 2022 executive session minutes, consider approval of April bills pending review, consider approval of cooperative agreement form for OACTC data exchange program, consider approval of letter of agreement with AFSCME local 3326 regarding change to sick leave, consider approval of statement of work with Bureau of Land Management for law enforcement services on public lands and authorize county judge to execute subsequent agreements, acknowledge receipt of Columbia Ridge Landfill Citizens Advisory Committee 2021 annual report, and consider approval of county assessment function funding assessment or CAFA grant resolution. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Let's move on. Pull this piece out. Go back to it later. All right, let's move on to item 5.1 under unfinished business, which is consider second reading and possible adoption of ordinance number 2022-01, a special weed assessment within Gillin County for fiscal year 2022-2023. Just to recap very briefly, on March 2nd and the 16th, we held a hearing to receive public comment on the ordinance. In order to adopt the ordinance, we need to conduct 2 readings, and the first has already been held. It was conducted on March 16th. So in order to proceed, we'd need a second reading and then adoption.
I move to have a second reading of ordinance number 2022-01 by title only.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we have a second reading of ordinance number 2022-01 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. In the County Court of the State of Oregon, in and for the County of Gilliam, ordinance number 2022-01 in the matter of a special weed assessment within Gilliam County for fiscal year 2022-2023.
I move to accept the second reading of ordinance number 2022-01 by title only and to adopt the ordinance.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the second reading of ordinance number 2022-01 by title only and to adopt the ordinance. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 5.2 is consider approval of intergovernmental agreement with South Gillin County Health District for Public Health Startup Services. As you will recall, we discussed putting together an IGA with the district just to make sure we were clear on responsibilities and funding for all of the work that Holly and her team are doing to help us get this transition conducted orderly and effectively. So the scope of the IGA is between January 1, 2022, so it would cover everything that's happened up till this point through the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th, at which point we'll officially become the local public health authority. So those agreements will need to change. The IGA was drafted by our legal counsel, Lori Cooper. Holly Winslow has reviewed it and is okay with the draft.
Is this the original estimated startup costs that were presented in the meeting in Arlington last whenever?
I believe so. Holly, can you speak to that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, it's the exact same amount.
So I guess the question I've got is, and we talked about this before, so refresh my memory, but as this moves forward, and I think what was explained before, the budget process for the local health authority and your portion, it's all going to fall under your current board.
Understand the question. I'm not sure I understand, Pat. Can you read?
I guess what I'm getting to is, as far as the local health authority is concerned, we have in the past had a member on the health board from the county court, and now there's got to be a budget process, obviously, for that entity, but I'm confused myself, and we're contracting that out to South Gillin Health District, then it all falls under their budget. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I just, in a sense, the county loses a place on the board with their local, I guess. Does that make sense?
hear what you're
So
saying.
one of the things that I think may be helpful in this is in our discussions with OHA, they have made very clear to us that their expectation is not just a handing over of public health to the district, that when they go to do their review process of our program, they will be looking to the county to make sure that we are directly engaged with Holly and her team, and that the district is following, as our subcontractor, OHA's expectations for each of the program elements. And so as you'll start to see, we have later on the agenda, one of the policies of many that we will be bringing forward that will kind of put in place a framework for that engagement between the court and Holly and the district as the subcontractor. So it's true that the district itself is going to be, those funds are going to be running through our budget into Holly's budget, and then, their board is going to be overseeing the work that the district itself, their personnel, is doing. But I think I just wanted to put on the record that the expectation that the state has conveyed to us is that we will continue to be, as the local public health authority board, in OHA's eyes, the really oversight function for how that department is working. And so I would expect, as part of that we will be seeing Holly on a regular basis to check in on how each of these program elements are going, and just to ensure that the district is complying with the expectations that we've agreed to as the county with OHA, if that makes sense.
Right. And also remember, I'm actually going to be a county employee. And so as that, wearing the administrator hat, that's where I'm going to kind of be the go-between between the county court and the district in all things Gilliam County Public Health. And so that's when that policy comes into place also of oversight on the operation and the reporting. Like if you want me to come monthly, maybe for the first year, and then I would give a report, and then maybe quarterly, or however you guys want it. And then of course, since we're a government entity, our books are always open. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, kind of. I guess that my I don't know that it's even a concern, but that in the past the county obviously had a place at the table through the whole budget process for local health, and not to lose that. And I guess in a sense, we kind of put that together from a different arrangement or perspective, but that, the concern that I hear most often from people is this going to cost more money, and we knew basically up front that there's going to be the $80,000 startup cost that is in excess of what we've been paying annually for that service through North Central, be it whether we thought we were getting the service or not. That was the cost to the county. And just to be in the loop when anything comes up that's going to affect that, that would be my concern as far as the county.
Well, the process for you approving the amount that goes to us, the county contribution, is going to be the same. So I don't anticipate any, asking for any more money. But you could always vote and say no if I did. But yeah, as the way the things are falling right now, we are actually going to be getting more money than I had budgeted for. And that's just because it's all based on the program elements, what the state gives us. And the difference between the budgeting process that you've been experiencing is that we are restricted on how we spend the funds that come from the state. They tell us how much we're getting, and they tell us how we can spend it. So the only flexibility that we have with funds are the funds that you provide to us.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just being a little cautious, okay?
Well, I'll be holding your hand every month on that.
Other questions regarding the IGA?
I don't.
I don't either.
Do we have a motion?
Can we make the motion?
I can make the motion.
Already.
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement with South Gillin County Health District for public health startup services as presented.
And I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the intergovernmental agreement with South Gilliam County Health District for public health startup services as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's move on. We've got a lot of public health stuff on the agenda today. The next one is consider approval of subcontractor proposal for environmental health services. So as you will recall, during the last meeting, we decided to table this as we were waiting for some of our other potential county partners to get back to us with proposals. So just to sort of recap, what we're really talking about here is the environmental health services and the on-site septic services. We have in your packet a proposal from Umatilla County that includes both the environmental health and the on-site septic. We also have a proposal from Grant County for just the environmental health because they themselves subcontract out their septic to Harney County. Harney County has told us that they are not interested in providing the service due to the distance. And so Daleen has been reaching out to other counties for us and reached out to Jefferson County, who also declined, Crook County, who declined, and then Jefferson County, who has provided a proposal for just the on-site septic. So really, I think the question that I could use some direction on is whether you would prefer to go with the Umatilla County proposal, which has a base fee plus the actual fees that are collected for the permits, or whether you would like to go with a Grant County / Jefferson County sort of combo option where Grant County provides the environmental health and Jefferson County provides the on-site septic. For both Grant and Jefferson County, for Grant County, the proposal is just for us to basically pass through the fees that are collected as part of the permitting process. For Jefferson County, they've quoted us an hourly rate that includes the sanitarium's actual time on site, as well as the drive time plus mileage. And the idea I think they were trying to do is cover their own costs, but try to stay within what they think the permit fees themselves will cover. So the idea is that the permit fees that we are collecting for those services will then be turned around and used to provide Jefferson County cover the cost of their employee to come out and do the inspection. Questions about either of these or?
No, I think I'm more comfortable with the Grant County, Jefferson County option.
As far as the cost, yeah, I would agree with that. Umatilla counties seem to be more costly. There's a lot of numbers, and they weren't very big numbers, so I had a lot of trouble reading them. But yeah.
Holly, I don't know if you had any thoughts as our incoming administrator on one versus the other, if you really don't have a preference, if She might have missed me. So, I mean, from my perspective, it sounds to me like either, oh, she unmuted. Holly,
Sorry.
did you have thoughts on the environmental health subcontractors?
I do not have a personal preference, and due to the lack of number of septic inspections, it shouldn't be too big of a deal. I don't know what the county court's current relationship is with Umatilla for other services. If, going with them would, mesh a little bit better with what's going on. I really don't know. As far as the money goes, I did budget because at the time we were doing the feasibility study, Grant County was unable to even consider this. And so they were our only option. So that fee is in the budget. But again, we just knew this was the county court's decision ultimately.
Mm-hmm. And I think what Holly is maybe referring to is just for particularly the on-site septic, a lot of times that is tracking with what's happening with building codes. And given that our building inspector is in Morrow County, and that Umatilla provides these services to Morrow County and to City of Boardman, that maybe there was a synergy there. So that's just something to sort of part of the consideration, I think is worth at least putting on the table.
Well, my other thing was, if we go with Umatilla County, it's a package deal, not having to partner with two other entities or counties. It would just streamline things a little bit.
Yeah, I had
a proposal.
I was going to say, oh, go ahead, Sherry.
They put a lot of thought into their proposal. I know that. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and one of the things, I'm sort of echoing what you were saying, but one of the things that struck me is if either Jefferson County or Grant County decides that that they can no longer provide the service, or they have a change in personnel or something like that, then we're going to need to. We would have to take the other service away, if you see what I mean. So if Grant County is out, then we need to probably switch gears and go to Umatilla County down the road. So I echo, at least on the administrative side, the streamlining of having just one partner to deal with. I do like that, but I'm also sensitive to the base fee going. I mean, that's a pretty significant amount of money. That being said, Holly's already budgeted for it and accounted for it. So I guess I could go either way. I'm not sure that I have a clear preference between the two.
Well, you girls aren't any help at all. Yes, please. Daleen would like to add.
Daleen Wilson. I do know, I've spoken both with Grant County and Umatilla County quite extensively. I think the employment with Umatilla County, I do know they have more environmental health employees that can be responsive to whether it be food, pool, lodging licensure or the on-site septic work. Instead of having just one guy with Grant County and one person with Jefferson County, we've got a little bit more of a crew with Umatilla County. Whether that factors into the decision or not.
Mileage is also
Yeah, right.
be more likely to get them when you need them, just because less miles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I did hear back from Jackson County too was that as far as the on-site septic services went, some of those, because of the mileage and maybe because of the response time, they would be doing perhaps more of those via Zoom or FaceTime or whatever it is. It'd be, over the phone instead of in person.
Yeah.
And I don't know how.
Yeah, and how efficient that is.
How efficient it is, or, do you feel like you're getting a good inspection and your money's worth if it's over the phone versus in person?
Yeah.
So in terms of a decision point, we don't actually need a motion. I just need consensus of the court of which direction you'd like to go in. We'll then notify OHA of the court's intention, and then we'll actually put together the legal documents that create the partnership. And so I just need some direction from the court on which partner I need to be talking to and working out those legal documents with. It sounds like maybe there was a leaning toward Umatilla County in this last little bit of discussion. Am I misreading the room, or is that an accurate read?
You're reading me correctly.
I
I
think
think
that's
would.
accurate when you look at all the details
Yeah.
and the fact that it has been budgeted for, even though it is potentially more expensive.
Okay, so it sounds like it's the consensus of the court then to go with Umatilla County as the environmental health subcontractor. And then you'll see later in the agenda, we'll actually do the official notification to OHA of the decision. And then based on that, we will be working on getting the subcontracts drafted and put in place. So that'll be forthcoming, but am I correct in that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So just for the record, for Miranda, we'll just want to note that the consensus of the court was to go with the Umatilla County proposal, and that a subcontract will be coming back for the final review and approval. All right, great. Let's move on to the next item, which is consider approval of Resolution number R 2022-04, adopting a public health subcontractor oversight policy. We have been having many meetings with OHA, and so now we're starting to get into the more detailed requirements of getting everything up and running by July 1. One of which is a long list of policies that OHA expects that we have in place before we start conducting business. And given that most of our, all of our public health services, aside from governance services, are going to be subcontracted, OHA wanted us to make sure that we have a good subcontractor oversight policy in place. So the draft that's before you actually came to us from Crook County Public Health. Their former director has been contracted by OHA to sort of serve as a guide or consultant to us through the process. And so she's been kind enough to share a lot of her policy drafts. And so that's where this one comes from. It's obviously been modified to fit Gillin County specifically, but it has been reviewed by both me and by Holly as the incoming administrator. Any questions?
Didn't have any questions.
No,
I move to approve resolution number R 2022-04 as presented.
second,
Moved and seconded that we approve resolution number R 2022-04 as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, last little bit for public health today is 5.5, which is consider approval of letter notifying OHA, which is Oregon Health Authority, of intent to subcontract public health services. So one of the requirements for the county in this transition period is that we provide OHA with 75 days notice of any of our intent to subcontract any of the public health services. And so what you have before you is just a draft letter to the person at OHA, just notifying them. All of the PEs that you're seeing in the letter, these are referring to program elements. And so they look a little wonky from the untrained eye, but for the OHA staff, they know exactly what we're talking about. Each one of these corresponds with a different program element, whether that's immunizations or STDs or maternal health or WIC. So each of these are connected to that. The only thing we would need to do is just modify or amend the letter to put in Umatilla County as the environmental health services subcontractor. Any questions?
I would move to approve the letter to the Oregon Health Authority amended to include Umatilla County's environmental health service subcontractor.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the letter to Oregon Health Authority amended to include Umatilla County as the environmental health services subcontractor. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's move on to 5.6, which is consider appointment of competitive grant review committee members. So we had talked about this during our last meeting. Our competitive grants review process needs to get going pretty quickly in order to be ready for budget committee review here in the next month or so. We went ahead and advertised the vacancies in last month in March. We received letters of interest from Leah Watkins as well as Denny Newell. Both are candidates for county commissioner. I sort of threw that out in the meeting, and both were kind enough to raise their hands and say that they were willing to serve. So those were the only two letters that we approved or we received. I think my recommendation would be to appoint both. And then I'm kind of wondering if maybe both Delaney and Miranda can help do the review and the staffing for that process, capturing the takeaways for the budget committee. That way both have an opportunity to sort of see that up close since they're new.
Yeah, and they're new, so we can just appoint them to just about anything.
Yeah, exactly. They don't know any better.
I think that's a good process for them to be here and know the ins and outs and ask the questions and lead the process with Denny and Leah. Have them get a chance to know Leah and Denny. Oh.
Exactly. So could I get, for at least the public members, could I get a motion from you guys to just appoint Leah and Denny effective immediately through the end of the year?
I move to appoint Leah Watkins and Denny Newell to the Competitive Grant Review Committee effective April 6, 2022 through December 31st, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we appoint Leah Watkins and Denny Newell to the Competitive Grant Review Committee effective April 6, 2022 through December 31st, 2022. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we will get letters out to them and get that initial review going probably here in the next week or so, getting them up to speed on the applications and setting a date for them to meet so we can stay on track. The next one in your agenda is 5.7, which is consider approval of resolution number, excuse the toddler in the background. Consider approval of resolution number 2022-05, adopting policies and fee schedule for Burns Park. This is just to follow up on our March 2nd conversation that we had with Daryl regarding putting in place policies and a fee schedule for Burns Park. It just covers everything that we discussed there. Monthly rentals will only be allowed with approval from county court. The rates are $450 for the regular season, $550 for the off season, regular season being March 1st through October 31st, and then off season November 1st through February 28th, 29th, depending on the year. It updated the fee schedule to be $15 per night for tent sites, $30 per night, and $175 per week for RVs. Maximum length of stay is set to 14 days. We also included, for clarity's sake, some language that says there needs to be a 14-day break between stays, so that we don't have folks just spending a night off the park and coming back. It just makes it a little bit easier. And then there's also language saying that we will honor the special access pass provided by the state of Oregon. This allows pass holders to stay at Burns Park for free. And then monthly, it makes clear that monthly rentals are excluded from the special pass. And I think that pretty much covers it. Are there questions?
Yeah, back to my original concern over this with housing, what it is. So you have somebody come in tomorrow, the day after county court, that wants a monthly rental. They have to wait 2 weeks till the next county court to get approved. Does anybody see that as being an issue?
I mean, it definitely could come up. One thing, if we wanted to amend it, we could make it, I mean, that could be something if you felt comfortable with me approving. Then
I don't know if it would happen or not happen. Potentially you're okay in regards to, you got 2 weeks till the next county court meeting between the first week and the third week of the month, but a lot of times between the third week and the first of the following month, there could be over 14 days. And
Yeah.
I don't know that would be a problem. I just am somewhat sensitive to lack of housing and what you might need for somebody to stay longer than 14 days and have rules in place that we can't be somewhat accommodated.
Yeah, I think that if we put that in the judge's court to make that decision, I don't think that's.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
okay, so if I'm hearing correctly, what we're talking about is, let me see here. Under the policy, it looks like there's under the stay duration sort of place, it says longer stays for extenuating circumstances will only be allowed with prior approval from the county court is how it currently reads, but we're talking about amending that to read from the county judge. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, is there any other edits, revisions that we wanted to discuss?
Didn't have anything that you want
Let's see. I move to adopt resolution number R 2022-05 as amended.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution number R 2022-05 as amended. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, great. We will get that amended and get everything signed this week. Let's move on to 5.8, which is consider approval of community renewable energy grant writing proposal from Latitude 45 Associates. Pat, when I put this on, I changed it just slightly from your briefing, just in case you wanted us potentially to take action on the Latitude 45 proposal, but I'll let you sort of kick off sort of how you wanted the discussion to go, or what feedback you wanted from Sherry and I.
I asked Catherine to come, make sure she participated, and I talked to Brandon with schools. Is Brandon on?
Yes, he is on the Zoom.
So because they both have some potential projects that would fit under this grant program. And obviously Mike MacArthur's been keeping me in the loop because it sounds like it's going to be pretty easy money to get. And if you look at Alan's proposal, and he was going to try to get on today, was pretty sure he was not going to be able to because he is in the Sherman County court meeting today for the same reason for Sherman County's project. So, and I guess it's just, you know, from the county perspective, is this something we want to partner with to help facilitate the projects that are kind of out there and moving forward? It would be an initial cost of $2,500 for him to do the application process for planning. And then if approved, there would be, you know, if we got the grant for the planning, it'd be $2,500. His communications with me is these are the types of projects that the state is really, really looking for.
What are the projects? Can you share that with us?
They're for rural resiliency projects for solar.
Yeah,
renewable.
yeah, I know that, but I mean, what
The
is the
two
city of
projects
Condon
that
and
I've heard about,
school?
the school, Brandon was very interested and contacted me, I believe it was early last year, about possible solar project for the school that the kids could be involved in. And then I'd gotten an email from Gib with Condon, and he had talked to, I believe it was John Day, wasn't it? About a project they have over and there and something like that. And that has since grown into possibly a more larger project up around the churches in Summit Springs is kind of in the thought process.
Well, part of the project that I have heard from Gib is that we want to put some solar panels on the south side of our lagoons to possibly be a backup for any of the shop, our pivot, any of that. I think what it had to do with the churches was a possibly a backup of power for if it's cold, that the Summit Springs had a place that people could go to be warm and things like that. That's what I understood.
Which is really what Sherman County is looking at their schools for the community to come to if you have a disaster and fall off the grid, where you could come get warm, hot, cold, whatever.
What I would also like to do, I'm hoping, is that as we take over Condon Grade School, that we're appointing a committee this evening about what we're going to do with that property. That if this could also maybe take into effect of having some solar on that side for the buildings as the changes we make also. So it'd be
I
great.
think the bottom line is we have several ideas and it's going to cost $2,500 to start putting this together. And it's probably pretty foolish for a possible $1 million not to
Right.
move forward.
Well, and some of this money could be used for the project we talked about for the electrical vehicle charging stations as well.
I think I don't
Janet?
know all the details, but yeah.
That was it listed in the,
Yeah.
in the things that we could use it for. I'm partnering
And
with
Arlington,
the
the
port.
city,
and the
Arlington's
city.
also looking at that, so.
Could this also be paired with the federal money that's coming down the pike for what I'm thinking about, more or less the charging stations?
No, this is my understanding, this is a separate,
But can it be used
oh,
as?
it could be, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
Combine
know.
the monies.
Obviously
Yeah,
don't
do the
know.
same
leverage
project.
for some of the federal money. I do know that with the federal money, after talking with some of the staff of Wyden and Berkeley, is that they're looking for projects that are going to be pretty much shovel ready.
Yeah.
So if you guys apply for this grant and we get some projects going, that's just going to help us be ready to get federal money also.
Yeah.
Yeah, from my vantage point, I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, I think there's
Right.
definitely a need. We've talked previously as the court about providing grant writing capacity. And particularly with this one, with renewable energy, I just feel like that's a really specific skill set that we're looking at. And so the fact that we have a potential grant writer who has an expertise in that, I think makes some sense in partnering with that. And making sure that we're accessing those dollars if we can. So I think, I mean, the return on investment, if we're successful, is huge. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And we have plenty of funds in our project development, in our economic development funds to be able to put towards this. So I think that would be a good fit for some of the host fee dollars that we have sort of sitting, waiting for the next good project to come through.
Alan's communications with me is you get through the planning process with a grant, the other one's gonna be just a give me, be really, really easy to get, so, which is the development construction, so, yeah.
Get them when we can.
I move to approve the proposal from Latitude 45 in the amount of $5,000 for community renewable energy grant writing assistance.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the proposal from Latitude 45 in the amount of $5,000 for community renewable energy grant writing assistance. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we are going to go into 5.9. This was the item that we pulled from the consent agenda. Consider approval of revised job description for office manager, road and weed department. Pat, what did you have?
I would like to move that position back under the road department as far as reporting, since I'm related to the applicant that is on that position.
Okay, yeah, I think if you take a look at the supervisory section, so at the top, we went ahead and revised the supervisor to be the roadmaster, and then under supervision received, we are updating that to say works under the general supervision of the roadmaster, may also receive lead direction from the weed control officer depending on assignment. So I know that Terry, for instance, helped with like the weed assessment and things like that. So I think the weed
Right.
control officer often is assigning some work as well. Is that sufficient, or were there other areas that you thought we needed to
No, I
address?
didn't realize I'd been changed back in this, but yeah, that's what we need to do.
Okay. So is there, I think what we're just looking for then is any other changes that you see, Sherry?
No.
Okay, so I will go ahead and make the motion to approve the revised position description for the office manager, road and weed department as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the revised position description for the office manager, road and weed department as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we've got that one taken care of. Let's move into new business. Under 6.1 is discuss request from Norcor for America Rescue Plan or ARPA funds. Sherry, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, Norcor Corrections Facility Management Team has requested a portion of the ARPA funds from Gillin County, well, from all the counties involved in Norcor, Gilliam, Sherman, Hood River, and Wasco counties. They didn't directly receive any ARPA funds, so they need to go back to the governing counties in order to receive any of that. The request from Gillin counties, it would be our percentage that goes along with the support for Norcor, and our amount would be $6,500. Sherman County and Wasco counties have agreed to this request as well. So, do you have any questions?
Just
Oh,
on the ARPA in
go ahead.
general, what have we, where are we at with the ARPA funds?
So we received, I believe, about 371,000, I think was our ARPA allocation. We have not done anything with it. I currently have it just rolling over into next year's budget. And so we would just anticipate taking this out. Obviously, we could decide whether, I wasn't sure, Sherry, are they thinking they need it this fiscal year or that they would want it after July 1 or?
I think they were asking for it in this fiscal year. Is that correct, Sheriff Bettencourt? Do you know?
I thought it was for them.
Upcoming. Okay. Yeah, well, we don't know.
But in either case, it's definitely budgeted to go out. It would just be, we'll just have to, if we spend it in this fiscal year, Nathan and I will just need to keep track of that and remember that for the next fiscal year that we're that we've already spent out part of it. But we were sort of waiting on to see sort of how fiber shook out and some other projects. So we've been just sort of holding it for now to wait for the right project to spend it on.
Is there a deadline? Is there a deadline? I know there's some requirements on what it can be used for, but is there a deadline?
There is, but I believe Catherine may remember off the top of her head, because I think the city had the same requirements.
Leftist.
Oh, I'm thinking, I want to say it's 2023. But I don't know that for sure. I can get back to you and double check on the agreement. But if I recall, they gave us a couple of years to spend it.
I'll reach out to Molly and find out what the time frame is.
So typically what we've done, if we've passed on COVID funds, this is what these are, we typically end up finalizing and executing an agreement with Norcor, specifically saying that we're sending the money over and that our expectation is that they use the money within any requirements that the federal government and state have for the funds, just to sort of cover us, that we are making that expectation clear. So if you guys wanted to move forward, I think what we could do, if you feel comfortable with this, is we could go ahead and approve the request. And then if you were comfortable just to authorize me to work with our legal counsel and the Norcor team to just go ahead and finalize and execute an agreement that just covers our basis on making sure that the expectations, since it's federal money, there's usually some strings, are clear for Norcor.
Okay. I move to approve the request from Norcor for $6,500 in ARPA funds and to authorize the county judge in consultation with legal counsel to finalize and execute any agreements needed to distribute the funds.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the request from Norcor for $6,500 in ARPA funds and to authorize the county judge in consultation with legal counsel to finalize and execute any agreements needed to distribute the funds. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on. We are on to 6.2, which is consider approval of resolution number R 2022-06, adopting salary schedules for represented, non-represented, and sheriff's office employees. I also want to fold into this discussion 6.3 because it is relevant, which is consider approval of letter of agreement with AFSCME Local 3326 regarding revised salary schedule. So just to recap, kind of give an overview, the county court each year is responsible for adopting the salary schedules for all of our employees for the upcoming fiscal year. Historically, based on our collective bargaining agreement terms, we base that off of a calculation, a cost of living increase based on West Class BC of the CPI West. And we've agreed to previously having that be a minimum of 2.5% and with a maximum of 3.5% for our union employees. Typically, what that has meant is that we do whatever we have done for the union in the past, we usually do for everyone that's employed. And so typically the represented and the sheriff's schedules for COLAs have followed whatever the union COLA calculation is. This year, due to really high inflation, the court is being asked to consider an increase of 8.1% for all represented, non-representative, and sheriff's office employees. That the 8.1% is coming from that calculation that is in the CBA. So Nathan did that calculation for us. And the proposal is that it become effective immediately. Normally this would come online July 1. Given the circumstances, I think particularly for our employees who are maybe entry-level employees or the lower, the beginning level of our scale, having gas prices that are and sometimes $4.50 I've seen popping up, sometimes more, other things that are increasing, groceries and et cetera, that immediate relief is appropriate. So the resolution before you would adopt salary schedules for the representative employees, the non-representative employees, and the sheriff's office employees with the 8.1% COLA. The compensation board has not completed its work yet, which is why the elected official schedule will be considered at a later date. So I don't know what that will look like, whether there will be the same COLA or something different. We'll wait to hear from the comp board members to see what their recommendation is. The other issue that we have discussed internally is when to apply for any employees who are eligible for a step increase for their longevity at the county. The consensus that I am hearing from our finance people, from Ellen and Nathan in particular, is that we think that maybe this is a two-step process, so that we would do the COLA effective immediately, but the step increases for any eligible employees would happen July 1 at their regular time. And Ellen will just go back and recalculate. I think there's maybe about a half dozen employees that, just taking a quick look at this salary schedule, I think we're looking at maybe 6-7 employees that are due for a step increase. So the idea would be those would happen on their regular schedule, which is July 1. And that will also save us from needing to go and amend some of the language in the union contract, which says that they'll take place July 1. The second piece of this to consider is just the letter of agreement with AFSCME, basically just documenting that this is a departure from what was agreed to in the CBA, and that this is sort of a one-time deal, that the terms that we're enacting today don't impact the final year of the collective bargaining agreement terms. So they go together, which is why I'd like to just sort of combine them as part of the conversation. Questions, concerns, feedback, initial thoughts?
So just to clarify, the 8.1 would replace the COLA increase that normally would happen on July 1. We give it now, and then they wouldn't get a COLA increase on July 1. There'd just be the step increases that are coming.
Correct. Yes. So the 8.1 would become effective immediately and would take place effective April 1 through the end of the 2022-2023 fiscal year. So that would be the COLA. It would just be, people would be receiving it a quarter early.
Okay.
Can I?
Yes, please.
I don't have an answer. I'm wondering about new employees. So I'm bringing on a new employee the next few weeks. And I really don't think, we have 2 employees sitting in the room, but I wouldn't want my employee qualified for the 8.1. But if it's easier for our payroll or whatever. I just think that might be a little unfair.
Any thoughts about that, Liz? Because we got 3.
I mean, from an administrative standpoint, what that would require us to do, I think, is have really multiple, like my recommendation would be that even new employees are eligible for that, that the cost of living that we're determining in here is really based on our job classifications keeping pace with what's happening in the economy. So I view it as, otherwise the implication of that, in other words, long-term, is that the positions that are being held by new employees on the salary schedule are going to be underclassed over time, because if we withhold this particular increase, if you see what I'm saying. So like the ones who are here longer term.
Yeah.
Because they end up with
July 1st.
a whole bunch of different salary schedules.
Yeah, I just meant first, and they would be at the the current below. The only other caveat, and we've only identified one employee at this point, is promotions. I do have one employee that's going to be promoted July 1st, so I asked for that to be held until July.
Right on.
Any other questions, concerns?
Not me.
None whatsoever. I move to adopt resolution number R 2022-06 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution number R 2022-06 as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and then I just need a second motion to approve the letter to AFSCME, which just is documenting the change.
I move to approve the letter of agreement with AFSCME regarding the revised salary schedule as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the letter of agreement with AFSCME regarding the revised salary schedule as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we will get those loaded into our system and included in the budget, the upcoming budget as well. Let's see. I think we are on to announcements and next meeting. Next meeting is going to be April 20th. That one will be held in Arlington at the Gronquist building. And I will turn it over to Sherry for her updates.
Gee, I don't have a lot of updates since our last meeting. Just regular things going on. There's a meeting with FEMA this afternoon that I'm going to listen in on, just getting organized for emergency management and just listening in to hear what's going on. Kim Waste is having a public information meeting on Wednesday the 13th at the Gronquist building at 5 p.m., which is on my calendar and needs to be.
You said what day?
It says Wednesday, April 13th. Right here.
Who?
Chemical Waste Management.
Oh, okay.
Public
Yeah, that's right.
information meeting.
I'm supposed to be keeping that schedule.
Put it in your schedule for proposed permit renewal.
Yep.
And then of course, Norcor on the 21st and Capco on the 29th. And then everything else that comes up in between. And that'll be coming up, and Shania Drink Wine is back in transportation, and we're getting ramped back up, getting full speed. So we're working towards that.
Yay. Welcome back, Shania. She's online. I can see her on Zoom. Pat, what do you got going on?
We had a road committee meeting on the 18th. We have coming up on the 19th in the Gronquist building. I'm somewhat confused by Senator Wyden's town hall, but he's coming to do a virtual only town hall in the Gronquist room. So I'm trying to figure out how that all works. And I have a conflict that day with a Obsidian Renewables has an event going, or a proposal, or a presentation anyway going on at the Sage Center in Boardman about a project that they're working on with hydrogen into the way I understand the existing natural gas pipeline, and how to expand the pipeline to move hydrogen around without transporting in trucks, and also a deep look into the local manufacturing of hydrogen for local fertilizer growers in Gillin County. So I'm going to sneak away from the Wyden deal as soon as I can and try to be at Boardman by 1 o'clock for that deal on the 19th. And then we have, Judd. Judd is here with the new director for the port, first in-person Gillin County Court meeting.
Welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to reply on the scheduling of that town hall. We communicated both with the city and with port directors, and it may have got kind of double booked, but they're available at the city to host that town hall if that's preferred, City Hall at Arlington. I don't know if they've got technology that would help broadcast that. Or
Yeah, I told him that we would I told Kathleen we'd figure out how to get that set up, but I've been talking to Kathleen at White's office about it, and she had a desire to have it at the Broncos building for some reason. I can check back with her.
Okay.
But we'll have to figure out how to get the Zoom link set up for that meeting, one way or the other.
Thanks.
I'm gonna be out of town on that day. I'm sorry. Won't be able to attend or help.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else you got, Pat?
Well, I think that we got North Central Public Health Board meeting next Tuesday, and I think there's a Gillin County, North Gillin County Health District meeting coming up next week, and that's about it.
Great. So for me, we have a Frontier Telenet meeting coming up on Friday at 10 a.m. That'll be on Zoom. So folks who want to listen in, feel free. Other than that, a lot of public health stuff. We're going to be churning out a lot of policies and things like that. I did want to report happily that we heard back from OHA last week, and they have approved the county for all of the program elements that we requested funding for. So that is wonderful news, and that is due to Holly and Dalene's really hard work following up and then following up again to make sure that OHA felt completely comfortable with us taking over July 1. So that's kudos entirely due to them, but great news. The other things that I wanted to just flag that are coming up later this month for folks is we are starting to enter into budget season. So the first budget committee meeting is scheduled for the 19th of April for folks to put on your calendar. That one is at 8 a.m. In the courthouse. It is a public meeting. So for anybody who is interested in sitting in and listening to how we put together the county's budget each year, you are welcome to attend. Some of the most important decisions actually I think we make are in that document in terms of where we put our investments. So, so come and participate if you're interested. The Frontier Regional 911 Board has a meeting the 19th as well at 1:30. That will be in the courthouse courtroom. I've already talked about the 20th being our next meeting. I believe the compensation board is also working on getting a meeting scheduled. I have heard tentatively that may be scheduled for the 21st. So if folks are interested in that, that process will sort of continue. And other than that, I think that basically covers it. For me, the one thing I did forget to mention off the top is that Delaney Watkins is here. She has been here for about a week, a little over now, and has been fantastic already. I told her last week that it feels like she had been here for 4 years rather than 4 days. She is picking things up and already a fantastic asset. So combined with the good work that Miranda was already doing early on, we really have, I think, a fantastic team for the court. So welcome aboard, Delaney, and I'm just thrilled, excited that you're here. Other than that, I think that's all I've got sort of percolating. I was trying to remember if there's anything else that I needed to raise before then. I don't believe so. Anything else for the good of the order?
And say, I forgot to say there's a Korea meeting at the Sage Center also, and that's this Friday. And we're touring a solar farm somewhere in Morrow County. I guess there's a battery set up also with that, but they probably should be touring the one in Gillin County. It's much more impressive.
Eventually.
They will.
Let me see if I just want to double check. I feel like there was one more thing that I needed to raise, but I want to make sure before you guys sign off that I haven't missed something that I wanted to ask you about. I did want to maybe just note for you guys that we are still trying to figure out on public health how much money is going to be coming to us from North Central once the divorce is final. So we are going back and forth quite a bit to try to figure out what those numbers may look like. I just am putting this sort of out there that that we're still working on that piece as well. But other than that, I think that covers all of my updates. Okay, so if there is no other business, it is 11:10 and I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.